Your knee pain is showing up in all 4 phases of the walking cycle, and you have no idea that it's there. You've been told it's age, it's wear and tear, or that you need better shoes. Maybe you've tried strengthening exercises, wearing one of those knee sleeves, or you've even attempted to change your stride. But the real problem is, no one's actually watching your gait to see what's going wrong. Today I'm going to take you through 4 walking mistakes that cause knee pain, one in each phase of the walking cycle, plus a 5th bonus mistake. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for and why these mistakes cause mechanical stress that's damaging your knees. If you've watched my video on the 4 phases of how to walk properly, you'll know that there's 4 stages in a walking cycle. There's the heel strike, and there's the toe off, there's the stance phase, and there's the swing through phase. Now, if you haven't watched it, I'll link it somewhere up here. I always get that wrong, and I'll put a description down in the bottom. Now, 75,000 of you have watched that video, and one of the big questions I get is, okay, if I'm not doing these properly, what am I doing wrong that's causing my knee pain? So hence the video today. So I'm going to show you through each phase of the gait cycle what's happening and what's causing your knee pain. Now, before I show you these mistakes, you need to understand something critical. These mistakes are happening at a subconscious level. These are movement compensations that the body has created. They're happening at the level of your nervous system. So we can't tell ourselves to change our gait and think it's going to happen. By the time we think about where we're placing our foot or where our arm swing is, your brain's already sent signals to the muscles and it's already created that movement. These are neuromotor programs that are running automatically. That's why you need to see them first and then address the root cause. Now, another piece of critical information is that these movement compensations may not happen on your injured side. Now, you may have both knees that hurt, or you may have one knee that hurts, but these movement compensations can happen on either side. And you ask why? Well, because the changes in symmetry are going to cause changes in the whole gait cycle. When one side compensates, the other one has to adapt. So let me show you what I see when I'm analyzing gait. The first mistake I want to talk about is what happens with heel strike. Let me show you what this looks like. Now watch what happens as the heel comes in contact with the ground. That is what we call the heel strike of the gait cycle. Instead of the body keeping that nice neutral position, good body alignment, you can see that the back is arching. It's a compensation that's attempting to help the body get that heel onto the ground. The lower back extends, causing a sway in the back as the heel strikes. Now here's why this matters. When your back arches at the point of heel strike, it changes all of your biomechanics and it changes the loading pattern of the force through your knee. Instead of the force being transferred cleanly through your skeletal system from the heel up through the knee and to the hip, that swing in the back is changing the body alignment and changing the mechanics, causing increased stress on your knee joint. Your knee is dealing with forces now coming from an angle instead of cleanly through your skeletal system. That's extra stress with every single step. And it's really wasteful. Your body has to do extra work to try and stabilize with that arched position of your back. It's not a neutral posture, so other muscles have to compensate even further to try and stabilize your body. So you're wasting energy with your back sway and heel strike. Now here's what I can't tell you. I can tell you that your back is arching, but I can't tell you why you're arching your back. There's far too many variables within the body that can lead to this type of compensation. It could be a number of reasons, but what I've seen is a lack of terminal knee extension. If you can't straighten your knee fully, that means that you're not going to have that position where that heel is going to come nicely on the ground, and you're going to arch your back to try and compensate to get that heel on the ground sooner and keep that nice gait cadence that we all want to have. The other thing it could be is hip tightness. If you have a lot of tightness in your hip flexors, you may not be able to swing that leg forward and get that heel on the ground because of the tightness in your hip flexors. It could even be instability on your other hip. If you've got instability on that side, you may want to get that heel down faster, and arching your back would be a great way to get that heel on the ground to stabilize on the side you can stabilize on, and keeping away from the stance phase on that other leg. See what I mean? There's so many reasons, and unless we do a complete evaluation of your movement issues, are we able to tell you why this is happening? Now, there are multiple possible causes, but the same visible pattern, and it causes the same stress on your knee. Now let's go to problem number 2. Problem number 2 that I want to discuss with you today is happening during the stance phase. And what we're looking at is a hip drop. Let's take a look. This is a problem that happens when the weight shifts onto the leg that's in stance phase. You can see almost like a dumping style pattern of that hip out to the side, like it doesn't seem stable in that position, and you can't keep that nice neutral upright position that we want to see in stance phase. This again is movement inefficiency. You're wasting a lot of energy by increasing that movement in that frontal plane instead of walking in a sagittal plane, which is what we want to do. We want to move forward. We don't need movement to the side. That's not going to help us. It's inefficient. We're wasting energy, and we're also using a lot more muscles, which is increasing our fatigue. Now, it's also causing stress on our knee, and this is how. When you dump your hip off to one side, you are changing your cadence. You're changing the timing. Your stance phase should be about 60% of your gait cycle. So 60% in stance, and the other 40% is that swing through phase. So if you kept doing this without other compensations, you'd be walking around in a circle because you're moving to the side. So your body has to adapt in another way to try and help you reach that goal of moving forward. So as the hip dumps to one side, the other leg is making up for that change in cadence with another compensation completely different than what the hip's doing on that side. It may sound a little confusing, but it's trying to make up that cadence. If you want to step 1, 2, 1, 2, but you've got one hip, that 2's not happening right away because it can't step down yet because you're still in stance phase. That leg's supposed to be ready to get off the ground, and it's not there. So the other side has to make up for it. When you're dumping your hip off to the side, is you're changing that pelvis position, and you're changing how the force is acting on that knee. And that's causing trauma onto the articular cartilage in your knee joint. Now, you may ask, what's causing that hip drop? What I have seen is that people have a problem standing on that one leg. And as I said, that stance phase is 60% of your walking time. So if you're not stable in that stance phase, your body's going to find a way to compensate, and dropping that hip is one way to try and increase the stabilization. But of course, we don't know if that's your problem. I'm just giving you some ideas here. Now, the other reason that it might dump to the side is because of a cadence problem that's occurring on the other side. So if you are having problems with getting that swing leg through, if your timing is not right, then you may dump the hip on the alternate side to try and increase the time in stance phase to allow that other leg time to swing through. Because both legs work reciprocally, we have to look at both sides. So we're not sure what the issue is until we take a look at what's causing your movement compensations and the lack of symmetry between the two sides. So now let's go on to problem number 3 that is happening during the swing through phase of gait. And what we see here is an actual hip circle. Instead of the leg coming straight forward and straight back, like we were saying in that sagittal plane, we want to move forward and back, something happens on that swing through leg that it takes this little detour. So let's watch the pattern of the leg as it moves through this gait cycle. So the leg is swinging away from the body. It's making an arc as it goes around and before it lands into its stance phase and allows the other leg to move. Now this is creating 2 problems for your knee. First of all, it's movement efficiency. You're using a lot of energy instead of moving in a straight line, going around in a circle. Second, the circular path changes the angle of the ankle as it moves to go into heel strike. So what causes this external hip circle to happen during the swing through phase? Well, we don't know what's causing it, but we certainly know it's causing knee pain. When that hip moves that leg in that arc position, what it's doing, it's causing some rotation. So when it ends the swing through phase and that heel strike happens, when that heel hits the ground, we don't have a nice smooth surface for the force to go from the ankle bone through the knee and back to the hip. Instead, it's hitting on angles and it's hitting in a rotational position, and that's causing increased wear and tear on the knee joint. Of course, that leads to knee pain. We don't want that. So let's go on to number 4. The issue I see in number 4, which is in the toe off, happens an awful lot. It's a compensation pattern that's really common. And what happens is that heel looks like it's internally rotated at toe off. Let's take a look at what this looks like. So instead of the heel being straight up and down with toe off, which is what we would love to see, again, things moving in that nice sagittal plane, we can see that deviation. We can see that heel moving towards the midline of the body, and that toe off is happening on an angle. Now, if you think about it, if that foot's on an angle and it's pushing on an angle, well, where's the body going to go? It's going to move on an angle. But that's not where we're headed. We're headed in a straight line. So it's increasing compensations. The other thing it's doing is if you're pushing on an angle, it's putting those forces on an angle through the knee joint. So if we look at it from a mechanical standpoint, the heel is angled, the force is coming on an angle, and it's causing a twisting motion in the knee if we want to continue to move straight ahead. Those twisting motions, the knee doesn't like it. And although you're doing that step after step, after a matter of thousands of steps a day, over days, over weeks, over months, you're going to see that wear and tear, and that's going to present itself as knee pain. Now, again, let me just preface this by saying these are subconscious things that happen. You can't just tell yourself, hey, I'm going to straighten out my heel. Because if you step every time and say, okay, heel straight, heel straight, heel straight, you're talking to yourself, but your brain's not listening. Your brain's already sent the signal down, and it's already caused that compensation to occur. The way we think is much slower because it's not automated. The movement patterns that are happening, your brain has automated. So you can't consciously think as fast as your nervous system is working. So what causes this heel rotation during the toe-off component of gait? Well, I can't tell you that for you, but what I can tell you and what I've seen in numerous clients is that a primary reason would be a lack of hip extension. When you're walking, that toe off happens when your hip is extended. So if you can't extend your hip, but we still need to push off to move forward, your body is going to find a way to compensate. So by rotating that heel and opening up the hip, you find a better way to push yourself forward if you can't do it with your hip extensor muscles, primarily the glute max. So that lack of hip extension is requiring the body to find a compensatory movement in order to propel the body forward, which is what we want to do during gait, is move forward. The other thing that could happen is a lack of terminal knee extension. When we do our toe off, our leg is straight. So your hip is extended and your knee is straight. If you can't do that, that may be a reason that you're rotating through and having that rotation in the heel, again, to try and compensate for lack of mobility in your knee. The other reason that could happen, so I'm giving you 3 here. Another reason why this could happen is because of a lack of ankle mobility. So if you don't have good plantar flexion when you're coming behind and you're toeing off, which requires that ankle to be in plantar flexion, you're going to find a way to compensate around your lack of mobility in the ankle. So these are 3 very common reasons why your heel may look like it's internally rotated on toe off. Now let's get to the bonus. I want to talk about the bonus because it's actually happening in the upper body, but it's affecting your knee. When you're swinging your arm swing should move in the same way as you want to move. You want to move forward, the arms are swinging forward. They're moving in that same sagittal plane that you want to move in. If you look at sprinters and you look at how their arms are moving, you will never see sprinters with their arm across their body. They're not taking a detour across the body. They're not taking a detour in any way other than moving in the way the body wants to move, because that's the most efficient way. And if you're looking at 10 seconds to finish 100 meters, sub 10 seconds for some, then you want to be as efficient as you can. Now, there's no reason we don't want to be efficient either, and our arm swing is a big part of that. But if you have an arm swing that actually crosses your body when you're walking, you're causing a huge amount of rotation. It's happening in the upper body, but it's affecting the lower body as well. And that rotation is causing a twisting action in your knees. Somewhere in the lower body, it's got to make up for that because you're rotating in the upper. Something has to bring you back into neutral so you can move straight forward. And with that arm swing, each time you do that, it's going to have a compensation in the lower body, and that's directly going to affect your knees. Now, here's what ties all of these mistakes together. Your body should move forward with minimal wasted energy. Everything's aligned, everything's coordinated, but when you start having movement compensations, they cause inefficiency in movement, which uses more muscles, requires more energy, increases your fatigue, and increases the wear and tear on your joints. And your knees are absorbing all that increased force. Now, here's what's important to understand. I just showed you what I see when I'm doing a gait assessment, but I didn't tell you what you can do about them. And that is very intentional, because even though you may recognize one or more of these movement compensation patterns, you don't know your specific cause. Is your back arching because of your knee, because of your hip, or because of your ankle, because of a pelvis issue? Is it something that happened in the opposite leg? Is your hip dropping because of weakness? Or is it trying to make up for something that's happening on the other side where you don't have terminal knee extension? Is your heel rotating inward because of ankle mobility, because of knee problems, or because of a hip issue on the other side? We don't know that. You don't know it, and I don't know it. The reason I don't know it is because I haven't evaluated you, and you don't know where these problems sit in the kinetic stacking method hierarchy. Do you need to address mobility first? Do you have any mobility problems in any of those joints? Do you have a motor control issue? Are you having problems with stability and controlling your body through those motions, or in stance phase in a stabilizing position? Do you have an alignment issue that we need to correct and change your automation through sequencing? If we don't know what stage you're at in the kinetic stacking hierarchy, we don't know what to correct. You can't go and work on a motor control issue before working on a mobility problem. As I've said numerous times, I don't prescribe exercises to someone until I see what their problems are. It's far too easy to say, oh, you've got a hip stability problem. Here's the exercises I would recommend. But I don't know if you have a hip stability problem. And I don't know if that hip stability is a problem because it's compensating for something on the other side. You see what I'm getting at? We're far too detailed in our body movements and our compensation patterns to just take an exercise and throw it at the wall and hope it sticks. Now, I'm currently building my wait list for the upcoming online movement evaluation. So if you're tired of guessing, tired of doing thousands of exercises and not actually getting the results that you want to have, and putting in so much energy and coming up empty-handed and your knee pain is still there, then I invite you to put your name on the wait list. Go to marianbarnick.com/waitlist. I'll put that in the description below and get your name on the wait list for the online movement evaluation. Being on the wait list means that you have first access when I open the doors to attend with me for a lot of fun, for a lot of education, and to determine your mobility profile. We're going to create your personal profile so you know exactly what you need to work on. Now, I'll see you hopefully in the next video, and until then, hope you have an awesome day.